Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and run through the slides with you. Feel free to take notes if you would like to. You will be doing a discussion question over this slideshow and also the video that you're gonna watch before this. So it says Introduction to the 1920s and the Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. He is our author. So if just a little side note, if you would like to purchase your own book, you are free to do that. If you're the type of person that likes to have the book in your hands, please do that. And if not, you'll be reading it online. You'll have a free version online. Okay, so we already learned a little bit about the Roaring Twenties. This is a period of Western society and Western culture that occurred during and around the 1920s. It was a period of sustained economic prosperity with a distinctive cultural edge in the United States. You can see the kind of the pictures of the cars, what they look like. Why was there such a boom in life? Well, World War II ended. We won. Americans' products and goods were back in America, and workers were back in America. There were a lot of technology advancements. Radios became popular. There was also advancements in human rights, and which raised morality as well, and education was more common for all people. So at the end of World War One, America's economy was booming. People spent more time on leisurely activities thanks to modern inventions like the refrigerator, toasters, freezers, and the radio. A couple pictures right there. American attitudes. Veterans felt alienated and alone. It was more like a lost generation, materialistic, lack of vision and idealism. There was a fear of Germany, the Red Scare, fear of foreigners. There were over 800,000 immigrants come into the US from 1919 to 1920, and then the rise of the KKK as well. Movements of the 1920s included the Prohibition, which is probably the biggest one. That was the 18th Amendment. It banned the selling and distribution of alcohol. There were these places called speakeasies, and what those were like unlicensed bar rooms. And so they gave them that nickname because you had to speak the password to gain entry. So the law enforcement wouldn't hear you and catch you. There was a lot of homemade alcohol going around, could lead people to become blind or deaf. And it led to a rise of organized crime, gangs, and illegal activity. Chicago gangs led to over 500 murders in the 1920s. And all of these themes and things that we're talking about, you will see in the novel that we're going to read. If fundamentalism versus modernism, there was a big movement of religion versus science. So there was a trial called the Scopes trial in which a teacher named John Scopes, he was prosecuted, I'm sorry, for teaching evolution. So there was an act called the Butler Act in 1925, a Tennessee law that prohibited any public school teacher from denying the biblical account of man's origin. So it was a big trial. Two big lawyers got involved, and he ended up getting charged and found guilty, and he had to pay $100, which was a lot back then. Prosperity and consumerism. Economy was bank. There was a gross net profit was up. People were out there spending money. There weren't very many inflation issues. People had money and they were spending it. You can see the pictures there. Republican presidents, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, they were all very light, big on business and government, working hand in hand together. The 19th Amendment came along as well. This is women's suffrage and where women earn the right to vote. Flappers in the 1920s came along, and these were fashionable young women intent on enjoying themselves despite what society said. So they kind of were like, we're going to have a good time. We're going to wear what we want. We're going to dance around, do what we want, even though it was kind of looked down upon. So they had short skirts, short hair, lots of makeup, very bold makeup. They smoked, they drank illegally, they drove cars, they listened to jazz music, and they did what they wanted. Okay, so you'll see some of this in the novel as well. There's some automobiles. They represented luxury, freedom, showed off the fact that you had money. Music, the beginning of modern music happened during the 1920s. You had dance bands, you had Broadway, you had blues and jazz. It all became very important. The jazz age you kind of already learned about, but I want you to just go ahead and read this slide by yourself. That last bullet especially. Older people objected to vulgarity. They thought that women, young men and women should not be out there on the dance floor, but they did anyway. In 1922, Betty White was born, just to give you an idea of what was going on during the setting of our novel. Warren G. Harding was the president. He gave his first presidential radio broadcast, or the first presidential radio broadcast on February 10th. May 5th, the Yankee Stadium was being built. May 30th, the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated. A lot of big things happening. You can kind of see 96 years of history, but some of the style, and what's changed and what's not. So this was 1922. Think about 2018. Working world, the average income in 1922 was $3,269. Now it's 51,916. Unemployment was 6.7, and this year is 7.9. People per household in 1922, they're about 4.5. That number has definitely lessened to 2.54. Median age for marriage, 1922, people got married about 23 years old. Now it's about 27, 28, 29, around there. There's some popular baby names for you, 1922 and 2020. Population in 1922 was 110 million, and in 2018 was 327 million. Life expectancy is about the same, and you can see population by race has definitely changed some. Go ahead and look at that for a second. That Hispanic population has gone up tremendously. School-age children enrolled in 1922 was only 60%, and now is 97%. Graduation rate was very low. Now it's a lot higher. People with a bachelor's degree in 1922, 3%, and in now 2018, 32%. There's some popular movies during 1922 and now, and some top songs. I'll let y'all read through those. Look at the amount of money that they made too. 2.5 million to 1.1 billion. Big difference there. Technology was very important back then, but it was definitely not the way it is now. So I'll let you read through these as well. Radio is a big deal. Now we have TVs that are ridiculous, right? Do all kinds of crazy stuff. In the news, the Lincoln Memorial dedicated. The coal miners striked for nearly 6 months to protest wage cuts. James Joyce's Ulysses, which is a very popular publication, was published. U.S. Post Office destroys 500 copies of the novel. So it was a big scandal. 2018, we had the Facebook scandal over privacy, Winter Olympics, royal wedding, and a baby. Sports, World Series, New York Giants won it. Stanley Cup, Toronto, NCAA football was Princeton, and you can see 2018, Red Sox, Capitals, and Bama. Okay, so the setting of our story, make sure you know this, is New York City, East Egg, West Egg, Valley of Ashes. So these are the different towns within the city. The characters are Nick Carraway, Jay Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan, Tom Buchanan, Myrtle Wilson, George Wilson, Jordan Baker, and Owl Eyes. Symbols were colors. There's a lot of colors. Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, cars and places, and the theme is the American dream. Okay, so we'll be reading this over the next couple of weeks.